I lost my leg fighting for my country. I gave my paychecks to my family. And when I came home, they called me a burden. But 3 years later, they were on their knees, begging me to save them. This is the story of how betrayal pushed me to rebuild my life, and how my revenge became the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. If you've ever been underestimated, if anyone's ever made you feel small, then stick with me, because this story will hit hard. And hey, hit that like button and subscribe if you love seeing karma do its thing. The hum of the bees outside my window used to calm me. But that night, it only reminded me how alive the world was. While I felt half dead inside, I stared at the prosthetic leg leaning against my bed frame, its cold, metallic reflection mocking me. I had enlisted at 18, fueled by a simple dream, to escape my small-town life in Belmont, Oregon, and give my little brother Mark the future I never had. I'd pushed through boot camp hell, bleeding feet, sleepless nights, and screaming sergeants. I sent most of my paycheck home, every single month. For years, I survived sandstorms, 120 heat, and missions where I didn't know if I'd make it back. And then came that night in the Middle East. The ambush, the explosion, the searing pain as shrapnel tore through my leg. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me Jake, my best friend, my brother in arms, didn't make it. I was broken, but I thought, at least when I get home, I'll have my family. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I walked, or rather limped, into my parents' house, I expected tears, hugs, maybe even pride. Instead, my dad, James, just said, James, cold, dismissive, well, at least the VA will cover you. Right? My mom, Linda, barely looked up from her phone. She wore a new designer dress, the kind she'd bought with the money I sent home for Mark's tuition. Within a week, it became obvious. I wasn't their hero. I was their ATM. They'd burned through everything I sent. Vacations, designer clothes, fancy dinners, and now they wanted my disability checks too. When I said no, my father's eyes went icy. James, don't be ungrateful, David. You owe this family everything. Ungrateful. That word burned more than the shrapnel ever had. I tried to help around the house anyway. Small chores, fixing things. But my prosthetic slowed me down. I overheard them whispering at night. Linda whispering, he's useless now, dead weight. I can't explain how it feels. To take a bullet for your country, lose a leg, and still not be enough for your own family. Scene 3. The Christmas that broke me. It all came crashing down on Christmas Eve. Mark was away at college, so it was just me and my parents. I'd saved a little from my pension and bought them modest gifts. When I handed my dad a neatly wrapped box, he barely glanced at it before sneering. James, this it? All you could afford? I sat there, stunned. My chest tightened, my throat burned. Then Mom chimed in, laughing softly. Linda, maybe we should have sent Mark instead. At least he wouldn't have come back broken. That was it. The last thread holding me together snapped. I stood up, grabbed my backpack, and without a single word, I walked out. The snow crunched beneath my boots, and with every step, I felt lighter. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing. I'd never set foot in that house again. 2 hours later, I knocked on a weathered wooden door. At the edge of a quiet Oregon farm, Grandpa Henry, the only person in my life, who had never wanted anything from me but my happiness. He opened the door, saw the tears in my eyes, and simply said, Henry, come inside, son. You're home now. That night, I slept in a spare room, surrounded by the soft hum of bees outside. It was the first peaceful night's sleep I'd had in years. In the days that followed, Henry taught me everything about beekeeping, how to listen to the hives, how patience breeds success, how cooperation keeps a colony alive. Bees, he said, are nature's reminder that we survive together, or not at all. Every time I slipped into my nightmares, Henry was there, grounding me, teaching me, reminding me that healing isn't linear, but it's possible. And for the first time since the explosion, I began to believe him. Months passed. The rhythm of farm life calmed me. I woke up with the sun, tended to the hives, and felt my scars, both inside and out, slowly start to fade. But Henry didn't just teach me to heal. He taught me to build. We modernized the farm together, installing hive sensors, creating better honey extraction systems, and even launching a small Instagram page to share tips on sustainability and recovery. To my shock, people connected with my story. Veterans, trauma survivors, even complete strangers started following my journey. Soon, orders for honey started pouring in. I named it Coleman Honey, a name that, at one time, belonged to a broken family. But now it belonged to me. By the end of the year, we were turning profits. I'd built something out of nothing. And just as I was starting to breathe easy again, they showed up. My parents. I'll never forget the sound of tires crunching on the gravel driveway. I stepped out of the barn and froze. When I saw their sleek black SUV, Linda stepped out first, draped in another expensive dress I was sure they couldn't afford. James followed, his face a perfect mask of fake warmth. Linda, David, sweetheart, we've missed you so much. I clenched my jaw. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from anger. I hadn't heard from them in almost 2 years. Not one call, not one message. And now, suddenly, they missed me. I knew deep down what they were here for. And I was right. James and Linda stood there in front of me, pretending nothing had ever happened. I leaned against the barn door, arms crossed, watching them squirm. James, forcing a smile. David, son, we heard about your little honey business. We're so proud of you. Little. That word cut deep, but I stayed silent. Then came the real reason they'd shown up. Linda, hesitant, fake sweet. Your father and we've had a rough time financially. Some investments didn't pan out. We were hoping you'd help us. Just a small loan, sweetheart. Maybe 200,000? I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, and the sound made Linda flinch. David, cold. 200,000? You called me a burden. You called me broken. And now you want my money? James' jaw tightened. The mask of fake love cracked instantly. James, snapping. Don't be dramatic, David. You wouldn't even have that business if it weren't for us raising you. You owe us. I stepped forward, locking eyes with him, my voice steady but sharp. David. No, James. I don't owe you a damn thing. That night, I sat on the porch with Grandpa Henry, the old rocking chair creaking beneath him. Henry, they're circling because they're desperate, son. Folks like that don't change. You give him an inch, they'll take your whole arm. I knew he was right, but I also knew something else. I wasn't the same David they'd thrown away. I wasn't broken anymore. And this time, I was going to make them feel small. I called Mark, my younger brother, the only one I thought might still have a heart. He picked up instantly. Mark, hesitant. David, I heard about the business. Look, Mom and Dad, they're a mess right now. But I had nothing to do with what they did to you. I swear. We talked for hours. And slowly, I realized Mark had grown up. He wasn't the spoiled kid they raised anymore. So we formed a plan. If James and Linda wanted to use me, I'd let them walk straight into their own downfall. A week later, I invited my parents to the farm, pretending to discuss helping them out. When they arrived, I led them into the newly renovated honey processing room, where cameras were rolling. I had everything set up. Financial statements, investor reports, and a big, shiny folder on the table labeled Coleman Partnership Agreement. Linda's eyes lit up when she saw it. She thought she'd won. Linda. Oh, sweetheart. I knew you'd do the right thing. I gestured for them to sit. David, calmly. Before we move forward, I need you both to sign a disclosure, admitting you misused the money I sent home during my deployment. Standard procedure for investors. They froze. James' face went pale. James, what the hell is this? I leaned forward, my voice razor-sharp. David, this is accountability. The $147,000 I sent home for Mark's tuition? You blew it on vacations and designer bags. The bank statements are right here. Their expressions twisted. Shock, anger, guilt. But I didn't flinch. Then I pulled out the final blow. A video recording from Christmas Eve. The night they called me broken and useless. I hit play. Their own voices filled the room. Linda's voice from recording. Maybe we should have sent Mark instead. At least he wouldn't have come back broken. The silence afterward was deafening. James slammed his fist on the table, but I didn't move an inch. David, cold calm. You're not getting a penny. You're lucky I don't take this recording to the press, the VA, and every person you've lied to in this town. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, I found out James had been telling people I abandoned the family, trying to ruin my reputation. So I went public first. With Mark's help, I posted everything online. My story, the bank records, the Christmas recording, all of it. The response was explosive. Local news stations picked it up. People were furious on my behalf. Orders for Coleman honey tripled overnight. And James, he lost his job at the bank within a week. Linda tried to post a tearful apology video, but the comments section tore her apart. For the first time, they felt the humiliation they'd made me feel for years. 6 months later, Coleman Honey had grown into a 7-figure business. I hired local veterans, gave scholarships to kids from broken homes, and built a community centered around healing and resilience. One sunny afternoon, Mark came to visit the farm. We sat on the porch, watching bees drift lazily through the golden light. Mark quietly, "You did it, man. You turned all that pain into something beautiful." I smiled, sipping my coffee. "David, nah, we did it. Together." A few weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that James and Linda had sold their house and moved into a cramped rental outside town. They'd burned every bridge they had. And you know what? I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anger. I felt free. Because the best revenge isn't screaming at the people who broke you. It's showing them you didn't need them to rise. They thought I'd stay broken. They thought I'd crawl back. Instead, I built a life so good, they had to watch it from the outside.